The Port of New York and New Jersey anchors a logistics network covering over 1 billion square feet of industrial space. On any given day, goods moving through this single maritime gateway reach 46 million consumers within a 4-hour drive. Managing this volume of physical mass requires a specialized operational vocabulary. Freight moves through protocols like drayage for short-distance port transport, transloading to shift cargo between trucks and trains, and climate-controlled food-grade storage for perishables. We often view this hyper-optimized system as a peak of contemporary engineering, but the blueprint for this exact logistical machine was drawn up over 2,000 years ago. Building a sprawling, interconnected trade network ties a society's survival directly to the physical flow of goods. If those supply lines fracture, the megacities relying on them face the same vulnerability as the empires of antiquity. Long before diesel engines or intermodal containers, the Roman Empire engineered a global supply chain to feed, clothe, and arm millions across 3 continents. To understand our own vulnerability, we can look at 2 specific ancient achievements. The first is the Appian Way, a high-volume terrestrial spine. The second is Leptis Dabna, a thriving North African commercial hub that eventually became a ghost town. By examining how these ancient networks were constructed and the exact reasons they failed, we can decode the hidden mechanics keeping today's global cities alive. The Appian Way stretched from Rome to the port city of Brindisi, serving as the empire's primary link to the east. Emperor Trajan invested massive state resources into its engineering, cutting through mountainsides, raising viaducts, and laying precise stone paving to ensure rapid transit. The Appian Way functioned as a high-capacity freight corridor, supported by a chain of state-run way stations known as mansiones. These mansiones operated like modern inland distribution centers. Goods from the coast arrived at these staging areas to be stored, sorted, and loaded onto carts for local delivery. By standardizing distances between hubs, the state maintained a predictable pulse of resources. Moving heavy mass over long distances requires these terrestrial nodes. Without a chain of well-maintained staging areas, inland populations quickly deplete their local resources. On the Mediterranean coast of modern-day Libya sits Leptis Magna, the empire's primary commercial gateway to Africa. Caravans from the African interior traveled to these coastal warehouses to exchange precious goods. This arrival at the port mirrors the modern process of drayage, the short-haul transport linking inland producers to ocean-bound ships. This chart visualizes the scale of the region's agricultural output. In 46 BC, Julius Caesar levied a singular tax on the city of 3 million pounds of olive oil every year. This level of wealth created a dependency trap. The city's survival became entirely tethered to the operational capacity of its harbor. In the late 2nd century, Emperor Septimius Severus initiated a project to expand harbor capacity and protect the city from the Wadi Libda River's flooding. To solve the flooding, Roman engineers altered the course of the river. They then constructed an enormous closing quay, complete with massive warehouses and a control tower to manage ship traffic. The design contained a fatal flaw in fluid dynamics. Changing the river's path eliminated the outward water pressure that flushed the harbor. Without this counterpressure, the Mediterranean tide dragged massive amounts of sand inward. The harbor silted up immediately, blocking cargo ships entirely. This single engineering error rendered the massive harbor basin unusable, ending the city's ability to move goods and forcing its inhabitants to abandon the site. Because the silting happened so rapidly, the newly built eastern wharves were barely used. Today, the thick stone mooring rings intended to hold cargo ships sit remarkably well preserved, unused witnesses to the disaster. With the harbor choked by sand, the city could no longer export its massive olive oil yields. The economy stopped. Citizens abandoned the area, leaving the grand forums and basilicas to be swallowed by the desert. The ruins illustrate a physical law of urban survival. A city that cannot move its resources eventually ceases to be a city. The materials have evolved. We track cargo with satellites instead of stone markers, and our footprint has scaled to billions of square feet. But the underlying mechanics of moving goods over long distances are identical. We still rely on vulnerable, centralized hubs that connect our cities to the world. A civilization is only as permanent as the infrastructure that feeds it. If the logistics break and the flow of goods stops, the city dies.